be enforced by.
Sorry.
Yeah, keep going. Sorry.
That would typically be enforced again by your police department, considering the nature of it and the fact that, you know, oftentimes it's occurring on weekends and so on and so forth. So when your zoning enforcement folks are not around and are on the job. So so you have either, in terms of resolution options, you have either the enforcement of the ordinance by the police department, again, upon initiation of complaint and investigation and finding that there's a violation, or you also have in section 17-130, which is the last section of the article, relation to nuisance and other laws. It does indicate that there's nothing in the article that's a bar to a claim of nuisance or any other private cause of action by someone who's affected by the activity being complained of. You know, an impacted resident would be able to, you know, obtain counsel, initiate a nuisance action in Superior Court if they were disturbed by the activity that this ordinance is aimed at taking action against and regulating. And, you know, there have also been occasions where, you know, I've offered to intercede between neighbors and kind of act as a mediator, if you will, by holding a meeting with neighbors and listening to, you know, what's going on and trying to get a resolution that way. You know, I've been doing this for 24 years. Those are really the paths, you know, towards enforcement and towards resolution. And I do find that oftentimes, you know, there are two sides to the story, and there's history between neighbors, and you know, sometimes getting them together with a neutral third party, and that, you know, this is something that could even be handled through your town manager as well, and sort of somebody to say, well, this is, you know, this is why you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong, and this shouldn't be going on. And, you know, the town's not going to be dragged into this, because, you know, sometimes when you have a neighbor dispute, what will happen is the town will receive, whether it's the police department, town manager's department, zoning, will receive complaint after complaint after complaint. And it really is something that needs to be and can be resolved between the neighbors. So I just say that to you. Like I said, I'm very happy to look at, you know, what specifically is going on here. And if, you know, there's any, the activity is such that I believe there's any holes or whatnot in the ordinance with regard to coverage of the activities that are being engaged in. But the ordinance looks, based upon my experience with specifically the ATV issue, it looks to be sufficiently comprehensive.
So by complaint, what do we mean by complaint? So a formal complaint from a resident, or just a complaint, anonymous complaint? What do we define complaint as?
So, you know, I tend to, and I have even an ordinance that I've drafted, I've steered away from taking in anonymous complaints because, you know, again, oftentimes you don't get the full story when there's an anonymous complaint. There's, you know, oftentimes more going on than what's being complained of. Some history between the property owners, the neighboring property owners, and whatnot. So I do tend to discourage the acceptance of anonymous complaints. There have been very few instances. Sometimes, you know, the anonymous, I'll say this too, sometimes complaints, residents want to keep them anonymous because they want the neighbor not to be able to tell what in fact they've done to incite their neighbor. And there are, so I understand that sometimes there are instances where neighbors are concerned and they feel threatened, you know, but in that circumstance, oftentimes there's a history of events that will inform that. And so that background will be there for, in this instance, you have police, sometimes there's police incident reports, and so you could understand why they're being asked to keep it anonymous. So, I kind of, I suggest that if there is that request to keep it anonymous, that there be some investigation as to what the history has been for that reason.
So,
I'll just
all
say
right,
that.
so let's do this. I have some other information to give you, which I will give to you and let you look at it, Jennifer. And, once you see that and, fill you in a little bit more on some facts from the area that is having an issue. And then we can, bring it back to the Ordinance Committee and have some more informed discussion about what we think is the best way to go.
Very good.
All right, does that make sense to everybody? Make sense? Peter, Jack?
Yep.
Concerns, questions?
Yeah, that's fine with me, Mark.
Yeah, let's just get, kind of get a little bit more info for all of us, and have a little bit of time to look at our ordinance and look at how it fits this fact situation, and then we can go from there and see what we need to do to proceed and try and hopefully resolve the issues for everyone in the area. All right.
Do we want to set maybe a follow-up meeting
Yes.
at the end of this one so that we can just, because it's on my radar too, Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe we'll just have a brief discussion at the end about when we want to meet next to discuss further.
Yeah, I think we're there. So I'll get this to Jennifer. I have some information I'll leave with the Roche to pass to Jennifer, and we'll talk a little bit to Jennifer. And since I've been in a discussion with some folks about it, and then we can, whatever we need to get out to the rest of the Ordinance Committee, send it out to all of us, and we can all review it and then before our next meeting. So. What do we have? So to the next meeting, we have our council meetings right next Tuesday. Maybe the following week, give us a little time. The 27th, maybe 2 weeks from now. Does that make sense to everyone? If not, we'll pick another day.
Okay, we got a Worthington Fire District meeting that's
That night,
scheduled, yeah,
the 26th.
27th,
I mean
Thursday.
Yeah, so we do the 26th.
Yeah.
That looks okay for me.
26th.
26th or 27th.
26th. Okay, I think the 26th is what we're looking at.
I think that should be all right with me.
It's all right with all of us, and I'll check with
6 o'clock, I'm assuming.
6 o'clock on the 26th. If that works. All right, so that'll be good. All right, so all right, so let's but should be good for that, and by then we'll have some information. Oh, what's that, Charlie?
Oh,
We're gonna try to affect the ordinance for the ATV. The police aren't allowed to enforce it on a public street. I wonder if could they enforce it in the woods somewhere?
We'll let, well,
When our ordinance covered public right of way, it says public property.
The ordinance does cover private property as well.
Upon a complaint,
Worried
Charlie.
about the state
Upon a
highway.
complaint, yep.
let's stay highway.
A dozen of them go past my house a couple times a week late at night. They go back and forth on the state highway. And I'm told the police aren't allowed to pursue them at all against state law now, because they might endanger someone
That
in
is
a
true.
vehicle.
That is true.
So how are you gonna enforce anything against somebody right in the woods if you can't talk someone on the street?
It's not private property,
You can pursue them on private property.
but the ordinance we can. Yeah. I mean, at least they can't. They're not running away down to driving from.
They can.
Point.
Go out on the road.
I suspect in this instance that wouldn't be the case, but we don't know.
Anyways, if we could affect something so the police would limit the noise on the public streets.
I think that's, some of that problem is state law, but we can, look at that, but this is for, I think just for private property. State law is a whole nother can of worms.
They would pursue the owner in this instance. I mean, that's certainly what the ordinance contemplates, right? Is ultimately owner responsibility, right, for what's going on in the property, similar to what we do, of course, in zoning. So, you're talking about engaging them in a pursuit. I mean, that's,
So we're going after the property owner.
they would document the issue. I'm sorry, Mayor, did you?
The property owner would be liable for the fine instead of the person actually riding the vehicle.
Oh.
Yeah.
The ordinance certainly does contemplate, because the idea would be that the person that's riding on the property, because sometimes the circumstances that the individual who is riding on the property doesn't have permission. So that's a component of this as well. So, there's a lot of different aspects of it. I look forward to hearing particularly what's going on here, and then we can discuss it more specifically.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'll give you some background and some information, and then you could look at it. And we could have a more thorough discussion next time. Make sense? We good? All right, we're good. So thank you. We'll move on that, and that's it, right, Rush?
Adjournment.
Adjournment, motion to adjourn. Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, see you guys next week.
Yep. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone. Thank you, John.
Take care.
All right, see you. Get
Take
better.
care, Peter.
Thank you.
So, thank you. You should. Work on it.